Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we're going to talk about the Age of Enlightenment. If you like this video, then don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. It's free and you can always change your mind next time. None of these images in today's video belong to me. All of the pictures belong to the owner. Here we have the units of study timeline that goes from the 1300s all the way to the 1800s. In the 1300s, we have the Renaissance that starts sprouting the idea of humanism. The Renaissance lasted for a good 300 years, and sprouted the idea of humanism, which the Reformation, Exploration, and the Scientific Revolution really took in and did their own things. For example, in the Reformation from the 1500s to 1650, they reformed the Catholic Church into something better. Here in the exploration, we have from 1425 to the 1700s. This is where they discover new lands. And the Scientific Revolution is where they conduct experiments and create theories on things that, conduct experiments to answer questions, to answer everyday questions. Here in the Enlightenment, we see how really law and rights of people are really reformed. That does take into a little later in the American Revolution, where they create the Bill of Rights, the Declaration of Independence, things like that. From the Enlightenment, everything that's in there is influenced from the Enlightenment. Okay. Here we have what the Enlightenment was. The Enlightenment is known as the Age of Reason. We have the exploration known as the Age of Discovery. This is known as the Age of Reason. And the base of the Enlightenment is from the Renaissance and the Scientific Revolution. And they use reasoning and problem-solving techniques from the Scientific Revolution to solve problems in government and society. Thinkers and philosophers came together to discuss about ideas, and these meetings were called salons. They discussed hours and hours and hours and hours about different ideas that they have to solve problems in the government, in society, to help people. And the founding fathers of the United States of America used these ideas to establish our government with the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, the Bill of Rights. So they used the ideas during the American Revolution to write those types of important documents. Some things that they used reasoning and they questioned a bunch of things is the divine right of the king. And that was that God was the one who chose who will be king in each land. So God handpicked a bunch of people, saying that you're going to be king of this land, you're going to be king of this land, you, and you. And everyone had the right to say in the government, because at that time it was really just what a few people said that they thought was correct. Nobody really cared about what the people were going to say. So everyone has the right to have a say in the government, and every individual should have the same amount of respect. I mean, you should not, in a government, in society, you should not think that somebody is larger than somebody who has a bigger position in society. That's not true. Everyone should be treated with the same amount of respect because you are all in that same society, in that same government. So they really question the divine right of the king because of all these other reasons that they had too. And everyone should believe in the respectful deity and not just a specific holy work or the church. So that was also a really big thing too. But the two most big things are everyone has a right to say in the government and every individual should have the same amount of respect. Which is why, because of those two things, they really question the divine right of the king. Okay. Now we're going to talk about some Enlightenment thinkers that really supported these things and really changed what our society, what our government is today. The first person is Thomas Hobbes. Thomas Hobbes is from 1588 to 1679. He developed the social contract theory, where humans lived in freedom before, and there were no specific laws or rules to stop or continue an activity. There was nobody in charge and no proper government. So that's really what happened before. And now what's happening is that if the government rules, that means that people will have their civil rights, which means that they have a free trial, they can vote, they have education, public services, and sites. And he supported a monarchy government where some high authority, like a king or a queen, ruled the kingdom so that everybody was able to have their own say, and those kings and queens were able to rule the right way, government ruling, and give people civil rights. Sometimes this did not happen in the monarchy government, which is why he wanted to develop the social contract theory to help the monarchy government make its power a little bit higher and make it so people were actually able to have a king and a queen to properly rule the government. Many people do not support his theories, but they are important in order to run a government. Some people do need to be in charge of some things. Some people do need to be in charge of other things. But a lot of people didn't support this idea of Thomas Hobbes. Next, we have John Locke. John Locke believes that the government is made for the people, and he also believed that everybody has 3 natural rights when they are born, when they step foot on earth. That is life, liberty, and property. It's known today in the Declaration of Independence as life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And it's the government jobs to protect these rights. If they didn't, then some changes needed to be made in the government, like a new high official should be elected, and people should have their own say in the government. And if they did not, if they could not protect the 3 natural rights, life, liberty, and property, because when you are born with a life that you can do whatever you want. You are born with liberty, freedom, and property. You have something of yourself that you own yourself. So those are your 3 natural rights. And if the government takes away those 3 national rights, they don't protect those natural rights, then that you would need to elect and make some new changes in the government during that time. John Locke also did not approve of absolute monarchies. Okay, next we have Montesquieu. He's from 1689 to 1775. He believed that not just one set of laws could apply to people at all time. He believed in the separation of powers, which influenced today's government in the United States. We have the legislative branch, which is the U.S. Capitol, in the Congress. This takes care of the House of Representatives, the Senate, and much more. We have the executive branch, which is the White House, where the president and the vice president reside. And we have the judicial branch, where the Supreme Court is. And he also believed that monarchy isn't needed if the government has good people to run it properly. So he didn't really believe in what Thomas Hobbes said, because Thomas Hobbes, what he said is that he supported monarchy government. He said that, okay, somebody needs to rule. There needs to be either a king or a queen or some high authority to rule. But Montesquieu didn't believe in that. He said that monarchy isn't needed if the government had good people to run it properly. And he believed that because of the separation of powers, where one group takes care of a set of laws or a set of government, and another group takes care of another set, and another group takes care of a set. He believed that those separation of powers could help to run a government better, which influenced today's government in the United States. Next, we have Voltaire. He is from 1694 to 1778. He believed that everyone should have freedom of religion, freedom of speech and expression, and the separation of the church and the state. So freedom of religion means that anybody can believe whatever they want to. Like, if you want to believe in this, you can. If you want to believe in this, you can. And he also was a big thing on the freedom of speech and expression. He believed that anybody can say whatever they want. They have that's their freedom of speech. They can say what they want. Nobody should be telling somebody to say something. You have your own freedom of whatever you can want to say, which is a really famous quote that he has is, "I may disagree with what you say, but I will defend till death your right to say it." So that's a very famous quote, and it's pretty straightforward as well. A lot of people, when somebody says something, 100 people might disagree to that. There's so many debates, there's so many controversial issues in this world today. But Voltaire, what he said is that you can say whatever you want to say. I might disagree, I might agree. But you have that right to say whatever you want to say, which influenced the Bill of Rights in the freedom of religion, civil rights, which we talked about earlier, those civil rights, your right to vote, fair trial, education, public services, and sites. And freedom of speech. So those civil rights, freedom of speech, and freedom of religion influence the Bill of Rights. And now you can say whatever you want to say. You can believe in whatever you want to say, and you have those civil rights to yourself. Okay. Here we have Rousseau. He believed a majority will of people decides and not an individual with a high position. So this was a big thing during Thomas Hobbes' time too. And when we also talked about the divine right of the king, where everybody has the same amount of respect and everybody should have the right to say something in the government. So that's really what Rousseau believed in. He believed that the majority of people decides in a vote. When you vote, the majority of people will decide, and not in an individual with a high position. So, like a king and a queen, like if you, like somebody underneath a king and a queen, like a high position, but not that high that it's the same level of as a king and queen. But that person shouldn't just make the decision for the government itself. Everybody should be able to decide what they want in their government. And these votes were to be elected representative, and rich relationships, good relationships between the ruler and his people, which is the social contract theory, which we thought of earlier. He believed in that. He also believed that a good government should listen to what people tell him. If the ruler cannot uphold his duties, the people need to pick a new ruler. That's kind of what we talked about with John Locke too. If the government cannot protect your 3 natural rights, then changes need to be made in the government. People need to elect new people that can protect your 3 rights. Same thing with Rousseau. He believed that a good government should listen to what people tell him and to what the majority of people decide. And if the ruler cannot do those things, then people needed to pick a new ruler or a new government. Next, we have Vicaria. He wrote a book in 1764, which is called On Crimes and Punishments. And literally in that book, he wrote that everyone should get a fair punishment for a crime. Depending on your crime and your intention towards the crime, if you didn't mean to commit the crime and you committed it, then you should get a fair punishment for that. If you committed the crime with intention to commit it, then you should get a fair punishment for that. The punishment should be given to show that this crime should not be committed in the future, and everyone should get a fair trial. This is also in the civil rights that we talked about earlier with Thomas Hobbes. Your civil rights, your right to vote, a fair trial, education, public services and sites, where you can use public things like go to the library, use a public restroom, eat at a public restaurant. So those are your civil rights. You have those rights to do that. And Vicaria really promoted the idea that everyone should get a free trial, not just depending upon what crime they committed. Depending upon the crime they committed, they should give a fair punishment. And Voltaire, that we saw just a few slides ago, he helped Vicaria to publish his work on crimes and punishments. Now we are going to review literally what we just talked about. So we talked about, the first thing that we talked about was when the Enlightenment took place and why was it important to everything that happened before it. We also talked about what was the Enlightenment and a little brief history on how it helped the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence and the Bill of Rights today and our government in the United States today. We also talked about Enlightenment thinkers. We talked about Thomas Hobbes, John Locke, Montesquieu, Voltaire, Rousseau, and Vicaria's whatever they did to support how to create a better government, how to run a better government. That's it for today's video. If you like this, then don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. Thank you.